Hello everyone, this is Jake from CINECALIBER. Today's video I'm going to be covering Halo Season 2 Episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4. For those who don't know, this is actually one of my most anticipated shows for the 2024 year. Season 1 was pretty decent, but there was a lot of issues I thought with the writing. So I'm really hoping Season 2 kind of is able to fix that. There's just a lot of lore in Halo, and I've really only played like the main core games, but I know that the show can do such a tremendous job if they can just kind of fix the writing a bit. So before we begin here, just kind of wanted to recap the events of Season 1 leading up to Season 2.
Well, this is gonna hurt like a mother.
In Season 1, we ended things up. There was a battle on a planet called Katoska. Basically, Chief and his Spartans basically went to this planet to get the award stones, and these basically show Halo. But basically, yes, there's a huge battle there to get the award stones. Cortana ends up fusing with John, the Master Chief, to basically save his life during this battle. And basically, they did get the ward stones back, but at great sacrifice, basically. That was one of the big things. Then Dr. Halsey, one of the big characters as well, she ended up escaping after all the issues she had caused in Season 1. And then also we had a sub-character, Quan. She went off to pursue a mission to find some sort of portal on her planet and protect it, and she kind of parted ways with another main character, Soren. And then after that was another big thing here. Makee. Makee is kind of a human connected with the Covenant. I guess she's more of the relatable side for the villains. She basically ends up dying at the end of the season, but we'll see if that really is the case here. So, but yeah, those are like the main things that happened at the end of Season 1, and that kind of then goes into Season 2. So, without further ado, we are going to go here to Halo Episode 1. So, the plot summary for this is: a deadly evacuation mission signals a shift in Master Chief's war with the Covenant. On reach, a new regime takes the reins at FleetCom. John senses a looming threat close to home. What I really liked about this episode, like within the first 15 minutes, was there's a particular sequence on a planet called Sanctuary. And the fight sequence is amazing. It kind of reminded me of John Wick in a way. What was really lacking in Season 1 was really these fight scenes. There was some decent gun ones, but sometimes the CGI and the choreography were really, really cheesy. They weren't done very well. But in this first 15 minutes, I was really impressed. I was like, wow, they really upped their game this time. And Chief and there's a scene sequence between Chief and the elites, and it's like, whoa, this is really top-notch stuff. And you're like the Covenant is such a prominent enemy now. I mean, they always were, but I feel like those first 15 minutes solidifies it. Like, they are just a huge threat out to just destroy everything. I really enjoyed that. Beyond that, this is more of like, again, first episode introduction to things. The introduction of Oni operative James Ackerson. He is kind of, I don't know what to think of him. I don't know if he really has anyone's best interest at heart, but he kind of is running the show, the Spartan program and everything. So he's interesting, and he's taking over for Halsey. So, but he doesn't really, I don't know if he just doesn't believe in the program, or he's just iffy because it's, again, created by Halsey. But him and John in this episode butt heads a lot, and that was a huge part of the episode, really, because he just doesn't believe John and what he's saying, even though John is right, but John's also kind of, under a lot of pressure, I guess you could say. So, it's an interesting narrative there. Then really beyond that, it was just, there's a subplot with Soren. He basically is pursuing a tip to find Halsey, who he loathes, basically. And it was like, okay, I like Soren, but he doesn't really fit into the whole main narrative yet, so it's kind of confusing as well. that actually goes into, so here's some things I did not like for when this episode came on. I didn't like, so Quan, another sub character from season 1, she's just on Thorin's ship, and it's like they departed on amicable ways in season 1. Why is she there? Like, they didn't provide any kind of backstory. Now, mind you, this is the first episode, so I guess they can, but I get the sense that they're not really going to show. I don't know why. It's just a sense I have, but I'm hoping that changes. But there's the lack of backstory there, kind of irks me. And again, both Quan and Soren, I don't know how they're going to factor into this whole plot, because the whole first season they really did not at all. So hoping that kind of opens up as the show goes on. That's it for episode 1. Episode 2, we have the plot summary here. John pushes Silver Team to its limit as he searches for missing Spartans. Kai worries about John's stability. Quan finds the rubble is a far more dangerous place in Soren's absence. Halsey seeks the identity of her captor. So just from that plot summary alone, you see there's a lot of things going on. This episode I actually really liked a lot because it explores the mental health of the Spartans and the other military characters. They really don't touch upon many of the other characters in season 1. Like, it's mostly focused on John. I thought that was a huge miss. I don't understand why they didn't, but I'm glad they are now. So again, we're going back to the Onis questioning John about his assessment of battle at Sanctuary due to his mental stability, and John's not really helping his case, being kind of crazy and aggressive. And in that, he's like he's making his team kind of train harder than they have. And Riz, one of his Spartans, is already suffering from wounds from the end of season 1. I can't remember that planet at the top of my head, but she fought on that planet, sustained some injuries, and she's just gotten not just physical, but just PTSD. And they really just explore that a lot with Riz. And so I like seeing them trying to like show her kind of recover from that. It's a huge characterization for her, one that was very much needed. And yeah, beyond that, we have that new character Perez, who was on the planet Sanctuary with John when he got attacked, and she actually doesn't help. She has her own like survivor's guilt after basically everyone died, and it doesn't help John's case because she doesn't confirm anything that he is saying to Ackerson. So now John looks even more like a fool. So the pressure is just building up for John, unfortunately, and he's just kind of going nuts, literally. And then we do get to see some of the Covenant. In this, they return, and you survive. Surprise! McKee survived. I could have told you that, but yeah. They come up. They're making moves. So we'll see where that all goes there. So what I didn't like about this episode was, again, the Quan storyline. So she's being chased by like smugglers, I guess, and it doesn't, again, no backstory. Like, this is going back to the first episode. Like, why is she on Soren's ship? Why isn't she on Madrigal? Like, what happened there? Like, okay, again, 2 episodes in, maybe they'll explore it, but I feel like you need something. Like, this is just like all over the place, I just don't understand that. And then we also find out there's a reveal about Halsey. She's basically been captured, but there's no revelation as to how. And again, no revelation as to why, which, again, maybe they'll, reveal it. But again, it's another one of those things, like, I don't know if they're really going to take much effort and they just want us to roll with it, and that kind of, I guess it irks me a little bit. But again, we'll keep going and give it a shot. So, and that was episode 2. Now we move on to episode 3. So episode 3, here's the plot summary for that. John goes rogue with Silver Team. Lara, Quan, and Kessler attempt to escape from mutineers. Cortana gives Ackerson alarming intel, and looming attack forces Ackerson's fateful choice. If you guys don't know who Lara, Quan, and Kessler are, Lara is Sauron's wife, and his son is Kessler as well. So that's basically that whole subplot with Quan, what they're doing, basically. So, by this episode, Jon has a lot of conflicts with his Silver team, because they're realizing he's just reacting more than planning, and they kind of just had it at this point with him. So and then of course Oni is against him, so in this one he basically has to go rogue to kind of get the answers he needs. So it's an interesting dynamic there. He continues to be a very complicated but interesting protagonist, so to speak. And again, Riz is continuing to recover from her PTSD. Kai, another one of the Spartans, is kind of just starting to question Master Chief as well. So again, it's really start exploring those Spartans, and that's really the highlight. The acting is really doing its job with that, and just the writing, I feel like they're really nailing that storyline. And again, like something that was lacking in that first season, but luckily they're tapping into it this season. This episode also explores more of the political aspect. We get to see more of Ackerson, like who he is, what he's up to, and you find out he just knows more than what's really going on, and you don't like it. And a lot of the other characters don't either that are on that side of things, which is I think it's General Keyes. He doesn't agree with it, and then you find out more that he has a father that's kind of ill and he's been taken care of, but you can tell that he's also on the precipice of some crazy information. Again, I really don't know what to think of Ackerson. I don't really like him. He's kind of being portrayed as an antagonist more than anything, but they try to personify him, and I feel like they did a decent job. But at the same time, it's still let's see how it goes with this character. So that was really the big things. So what I didn't like about this episode, again, broken record here. Quan's continued on an interesting storyline with Soren's family. Like, what is the end game here with this? It just is literally not going anywhere. But maybe it is. But again, 3 episodes in, and we're still like, okay. I mean, this is the same issues as season 1. Like, they gotta really fix this stuff. Like, provide some clarity. I mean, are they gonna go like 5 seasons before they make everything add up? I think that's way too long. I mean, at least in my point. But that's my opinion on it. And then the whole thing, like, what is Ackerson doing with Halsey? What was the point of him capturing her besides getting access to Cortana? Like, are they gonna really explain that? I don't know. It's another one of those things. It's like, we'll see where this goes. And then we also get a review with Soren. He kind of pops up, and it kind of just questions why capture in the first place if you were just gonna do what you did. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna go into episode 4, which will kind of spoil that anyway. Soren basically is, he was captured in the first episode, and then he kind of goes and he's taken to Halsey at the end of the 3rd episode, and they're like, okay, what's gonna happen here? And that kind of goes into episode 4. So that was everything I had for episode 3, and now we move on to episode 4. So episode 4, here is the plot summary. We are at the Covenant start their assault on Reach. Jon and Perez fight to join up with Fleetcom. Halsey and Soren form an unlikely alliance. So there you have it. This was arguably the best episode of the whole season so far. Those first 3 episodes, despite some issues, they built up to this moment so well. We're basically in a huge high-stakes action moment. The tension is paced throughout this episode tremendously. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I think I said this, the choreography and the action was very cheesy in that first season, and the CGI was kind of sloppy. Here, it's very well done. There's another moment that feels like a John Wick moment when Chief is just fighting with the Covenant, and it's very choreographed quite well. And then of course just the overall gunfighting and the choreography there is outstanding. Like they really upped their game with that, and I'm very glad they did. This episode is like a big one with like deaths. I don't want to really spoil those, but there's some emotional moments. Like they're sub characters that die. I'll say that at least, but it's pretty emotional. And they did a very good job, highlighting that, and just showing the emotional impact of how those deaths are for the main characters and all that. So, and again, like I said, this is a huge action episode. Everything is just kind of imploding around everyone. There was a big ending death, but we'll get into that here. So what I didn't like with this episode, that final death I just said, I mean, this character, they are not, the feeling is not very emotional when they die. And that's because this is one of the characters that they just didn't do any major characterization on. That character was just kind of there. And it's like, well, all right. So how can we really feel for this character when really there was no good writing around that character, And they try to paint this sad moment, and it's like, I don't really care as much, just because, again, you guys really didn't take the time to invest in this character. So I feel like that was more of a miss. They tried to paint it up as such a big death, but it really just fell flat, and that's kind of a shame. And then again, Halsey and Soren's awkward reunion, it just doesn't feel merited. I mean, Soren basically sacrificed his freedom to track her down and do whatever, get his vengeance on her. And, I get, because of everything that happened with the Covenant, they're forced to kind of work together. But it doesn't feel like they really hate each other or anything. I mean, Halsey doesn't really hate anyone. She's just manipulative. But Soren, I feel like, would have done more to try to get her. But and he's like, you'll be my ally, cool. Like, what? Like, you just sacrificed your freedom and now you're just going to be her ally? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Again, the writing is kind of failing with that. And unfortunately, Soren's always been kind of like just there, not doing a whole lot. So, but yeah, that was basically all the things I had to talk about with the first 4 episodes. So, the conclusion for this video and for this show so far, Halo Season 2 is an improvement of the first season, but there's still just a lot of questionable plot points and character choices that hinder the overall quality in this first half of the season. The acting and the focus on the Spartans has made this a very vast improvement, and of course the action sequences have been developed very well, and they just flow a lot better. But this show is still kind of like, it's iffy. I'm not as impressed as I thought I would be, but hopefully that'll change in these last 4 episodes. So that was all I had today. As always, please comment, like, and subscribe to this channel. Let me know your thoughts on the episodes, if you had seen them, or if there's anything you wanted me to cover. As always, I'll be showing my thumbnail, and on the bottom right of the screen you'll see a picture, and I want you to tell me what you think that picture is relevant for in this video. Alrighty? Alright guys, you have a great rest of your night, morning, wherever you're at, and that is all.